Hello everyone, welcome to the CUACI Learning Series number 3. Such a beautiful day we have today. And first of all, thank you to Curtin University Alumni Chapter Indonesia, or CUACI, for hosting and organizing this fantastic webinar for all of us today. My name is Nabila, an alumna of Curtin Business School, as well as Curtin School of Psychology, and I will be the moderator of today's webinar, together with another Curtin Business School alumni, Zatniko Winaya, or Nico.
Hi everyone.
So, we would also like to express our profound gratitude to all of you here. Thank you very much for your attendance and participation today. We truly appreciate it. And we're also very, very honored to be part of this third webinar called Economic Outlook and Personal Finance, How the Pandemic Affects Us. Case studies from Indonesia.
And Bila, as we know, this pandemic has hit us hard since the beginning of 2020. COVID-19 have significant impacts on people's life, families, communities, and economies in Indonesia and also worldwide. And indirectly, this pandemic has also shaped our world with new habits, or commonly known as the new normal. From health perspective, COVID-19 has improved health-related behavior, particularly hygiene practice. More people wearing masks, hand washing with soap, changing clothes after doing activities outside, and more practicing social distancing, keep a distance from other people in public areas. Moreover, if we talk about more personally, most of Indonesians, they spend last 3 months in their time at home. So it sounds great at the first 1 or 3 weeks, but at the end of the month, maybe most of us will realize that there is an increasing number of PUB as electricity consumption jump than usual, and also in terms of kills the boredom, we are more frequently purchasing unintended items through mobile apps, and we will talk about this later. Before we start the webinar, firstly, we will have a brief welcome speech from Pak Heribertus Wibowo, the President of Curtin University Alumni Chapter Indonesia. So I will hand it over to Pak Heri.
Ya, thank you Mas Niko and Mbak Bila. First of all, welcome, selamat datang. Terima kasih, thank you for joining this special learning session today. Because we also invite our fellow alumni from Malaysia and Singapore. Welcome, selamat datang. We hope you enjoy the session. And welcome also to our fellow CUACI members. Selamat datang. And also our new friends here that just joining us today for the learning session. So this is actually our third learning session. The first one is in May. We talk about health, and the second one is last month. We talk about aquaculture. So today, I think it's a best opportunity for us to learn more about economics and financial post COVID-19. So very much Pak Ryan and Bu Wina for sharing the presentation today. So please ask a lot of questions to this very inspiring experts, Pak Ryan and Bu Wina. And thank you for all technical team, Mas Niko, Mbak Bila, Mbak Umi. Thank you for organizing this learning session. I hope you can enjoy this learning session and you can gain many insights from this learning session. Please update our events, our next event, upcoming events on our social media. We have a lot of events, not just for CUACI member, but also for the public. So keep updated this event in our social media. Thank you. I will hand over to Mbak Bila and Pak Niko. Silakan.
Thank you, Mas Heri. Now, we would gladly share our agenda for today's webinar. First, we just had opening remarks from our CUACI President, Mas Heribertus Wibowo. Second, there will be presentations from our speakers for about 30 minutes each, and followed by Q&A session for 15 to 20 minutes through Slido. So we will share the Slido link during the presentation. So if you have any questions, please feel free to share it with us through Slido. And finally, a closing remarks from us. And not to forget, everybody, attendance link will be shared during the Q&A session. So please do insert your full name and email address precisely, as the information will be recorded to issue the certificates of attendance. May we also ask for your cooperation in terms of the waiting period, as we may need about 1 week to issue certificates straight from Curtin Alumni Office in Perth. Please also be advised that certificates will only be issued once you have completed the attendance questions. And by the way, Nico,
Yes, Bila.
why don't you say hi to the alumni from all over the world? Hello!
Hi!
Hello to all webinar enthusiasts. Guys, this is our first English-speaking Curtin Learning Series with international participants. So hello there, Malaysia and Singapore.
Hello, Malaysia. Hello, Singapore. How are you?
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the learning session. I hope you enjoy it. Right, Nico?
Exactly, Bila. And also, this event is going to be recorded and will be uploaded on CUACI YouTube channel. So which means we can watch it over and over again on CUACI YouTube channel. So please everyone, don't forget to click like and subscribe CUACI YouTube channel. By the way, next, why don't we have to start and introduce our intelligent speakers today? First, we have Pak Suryanto Gobiawan, PDM Asia Pacific, CEO and founder, Walawali and Chief Strategist of Iracom. We will briefly take a look at his CV. Pak Suryanto Gobiawan, he's an alumnus of Curtin University, pursuit of Bachelor of Commerce, and continued his postgraduate study at National University Singapore, majoring in International Business and Marketing. He also has served as Chief Financial Officer and then Chief Operation Officer in multinational companies and multi-local companies. He's active member of ICMA, Institute of Certified Management Accountant, CUACI, and GLG Council. Lately, he's joined Singapore Space and Technology as a business mentor.
Right. Next, after Pak Suryanto, we'll have presentation from co-founder, CEO, lead financial trainer of QM Financial, a chairperson and initiator of Koma Foundation, Ibu Ligwina Purwohananto. Ibu Ligwina completed her Bachelor of Commerce in Curtin University, and she continued her master's in the IPMI Business School Jakarta, majoring in business administration. Ibu Ligwina has written 3 popular books called Plan Now, 5 tahap terencana mencapai kebebasan finansial untuk Indonesia yang kuat, 100 langkah untuk tidak miskin, and buku kerja keuangan kreatif bersama Backcraft. And due to her achievements, Ibu Ligwina has received recognitions and awards, namely 2020 Global Program Eisenhower Fellowship, Indonesian Delegate to the Global Entrepreneurship Summit 2016 at Stanford University, Silicon Valley, USA, Australian Alumni Award awarded for the entrepreneurship category by the Australian Embassy Jakarta, and a speaker to the CTFT Financial Education Summit Asia Pacific 2013 Hong Kong. All right, Nico.
So Bila, let's greet our first speakers, Pak Suryanto Gobiawan.
Hi everyone. Hi. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear
clearly.
Excellent. Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us at this session of CUACI Learning Session. And like what Bila has clarified earlier on, and as well as Nico, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments or the chat room available here, and we will take it there from there later on. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, to run through my presentation, I hope this is not going to bore you down, but rather give you an insight of what happens to the Indonesian economy during and post COVID-19. Now, one of the key aspects that we are very keen to learn about in terms of Indonesian economy is that how are we as a business able to take it to the next step, progress, and move forward post COVID-19. I mean, we have seen that COVID-19 has derailed a lot of businesses, and it's not unusual to find or to even hear about businesses going bust during these difficult times. So what can we do to safeguard our position in terms of businesses? Now, first of all, before we cover the business side, before we go down to the micro side of the business, let's talk about the macroeconomic side of Indonesia. The Indonesian financial market has seen a lot of turmoils and downturns, from global financial crisis 2008 to the taper tantrum in 2013, the Fed and devaluation of the yuan in 2015. Yuan is the RMB, and then the Fed and the Trump case in 2018, and then late 2019, moving on towards 2020, we are looking at the COVID-19. The Great Depression happened in between 1929 to 39, World War, an Asian financial crisis, and the subprime mortgage crisis. That's how we have weathered all these economic crises all this while. So then coming down to COVID-19, what does that mean for business? Now, when we talk about COVID-19, most of us are entrepreneurs who are attending the talks today. So being entrepreneurs, being a business person at some point, or perhaps trying to improve the workplace, we are all very concerned about what is going to happen to all of us post-COVID-19. Now, first of all, when we talk about business, we are looking at sustainability. when it first happened, when COVID-19 first break out in many countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, anywhere else, we started to quickly shift from offline online business. This is something that we see a lot going on. And some companies are also they have to deal with manpower or salary cut. They stagger the work shift or the shift scheduling. No, but the real question is not just about sustainability. Are you able to sustain your business within this period? The question is, what is coming up next? When you have already successfully sustained your business, it doesn't go out of business. You don't have to, be bankrupt and so on and so forth. You are effectively looking at revolution. So business revolution changes in terms of the business operation model. And if you might have realized, a lot of businesses are not just talking about moving from offline to online, but rather we are looking at digital transformation as well, which I'm going to talk about later in terms of our business resiliency. Now, we remodel our financial strategies, we structure our debts, we try to manage our cash flow in a better position, and we even go down to the point where we have to change the core nature of business or a product, which is not uncommon. Some companies that I know of used to be selling clothes. They are confections, for example. And during this COVID-19, they have changed the business model and the core nature of the business or the product from that of creating tote bags and so on and so forth to face shield, face mask. Yeah, so adaptability is a key point in a business revolution. Now, last but not least, when you have sustained your business, you manage to do a business revolution in terms of your business modeling, you have to stay resilient. Yeah, maintaining that business over a long period post-COVID is not going to be easy because you are effectively looking at something new. While most of you are looking at effectively, digital transformation, which means that you may have to lay off certain number of manpower in your company. Now, and also when we talk about resiliency, we talk about the additional compliance standard for HSE and OSAS. These, by the way, are ISO standard for health, safety, environment, and health, safety at work. And the new normal protocol should prepare us better in case of another pandemic. So meaning that we are going to be able to talk about better days out there. Yeah, we are better prepared in case this pandemic or touch wood, another round or another wave hits on again. Now, what are the economic indicators post-COVID in Indonesia? If we talk about global GDP, the blue color circles right on the left-hand side, we are looking at -6. The predictions goes down to -6 to -7.6. These are the ugly numbers that we are looking at for GDP growth that is predicted by IMF for 2020 global. Yeah. Now, US is even worse. US goes down to -8. EU is worse with -10.2 expected or even deeper trench. Indonesia, we are still doing all right. I would say we are looking at -4.4 to -4.5 if there is no second wave of pandemic. What if there is? If we are looking at a second wave of pandemic that is going to hit Indonesia in the coming months, we are talking about -5.6%. Now, these are key issues that business dealers or entrepreneurs have to brace because these are not good times. But however, these are not considered to be times where we should all slump down and sit back and do nothing. This is a retaliation mode. Yeah, so 1 year is the expected or the predicted amount of time, the white color circle at the bottom on the left-hand side. 1 year is the amount of time predicted or needed for real sector to rebound. So we are talking about retail, we are talking about other real sectors. It will take about a year for their economy to rebound. And 5.3 billion US dollar for economic revival has been allocated by the Indonesian government. Now, unfortunately, out of which 1.53% only has been utilized. What does this mean? This means that the government need to push for more spending so that the money are circulated domestically and increase domestic spending and allow the chance for every sector within local or domestic industry to brace themselves so that we do not dig a deeper trench for that low number minus on the GDP growth. Yeah. And the pink circle right on top, 4.5%, is the BI or Bank of Indonesia interest rate after decreasing twice. And if there is going to be another decrease, then we are expecting to look at about 4%. IDR 2.40 trillion of outflow of state bond. This happened in between April and May. What does this mean? Normally for state bonds, we have seen the average of net inflow instead of a net outflow. So a net outflow of 2.14 trillion between the 2 months of April to May, it's quite a huge thing that will hurt the Indonesian investment scene. The red color circle on the right-hand side says 7 million Indonesians will lose their job by the end of 2020. Now, this is the number that we are coming close to today. So hopefully nobody loses their job, when we talk about in the next coming few months anymore. If there are, then the 7 million might have to be revised upwards. And that's not good news. Yeah. 15,000 IDR exchange rate per US dollar by the end of 2020 is expected. Today, we stand at about 14,300 and between 14,600, swinging thereabout. By the end of 2020, we are effectively looking at about 15,000. If we are still falling within the range of 15,000 per US dollar exchange rate, it is not too slumpy of an economy for Indonesia at this point. We've seen worse days. And 36.5% is the Indonesian GDP to loan ratio. What does this mean? Now, when Indonesia talks about takes up loan from the IMF or other organizations, other international organizations out there, we're talking about a total loan that should not amount to beyond 60%. Now, of course, the higher percentage you go, the more difficult it is for you to for us to repay our loan within the international market. But and that will also derail the economy locally in terms of our IDR USD exchange, in terms of economic revival that will be slower because large portion of the amount will be allocated to debt repayment. But if we are looking at 36.5%, I think our finance minister at the moment has maintained it and managed it fairly well. Now, look out for second wave of virus outbreak. Now, Indonesia have to brace ourselves for Q4 2020 for second wave as our numbers are increasing. Now, emerging market experiences greater damage than advanced economies, and therefore, these are the things that we should be very cautious about. If that happens, higher unemployment rate will definitely happen, and that will weigh on domestic demand and delay the economic recovery. Now, we are looking at Indonesian economic recovery by Q1 2021, or if not, latest Q2 2021. However, if second wave of virus outbreak comes around, looming in the corner of Q4 2020, that means we are not effectively looking at Q2 2021 for economic recovery anymore. We are looking at beyond. We are looking at longer. At the earliest, we are talking about Q4 2021. Now, when that happens as well, when higher unemployment rate occurs, of course, income disparity will be greater. Income per capita has dropped at the moment, and it's expected to drop even further, causing a greater rift between the rich and poor. Now, of course, when that happens, we are talking about crime rate will increase and so on and so forth. Now, we have taken the liberty to lift up a source from IMF Global Economic Growth Rate Forecast post-COVID-19. And these forecasts are not by myself, but this is coming out from the IMF. I'm happy to announce that Indonesia is the, well, bottom three. And it's a good news because that means Indonesian economy is sustainable at this point in time, although we cannot deny or we cannot run away from the fact that we are slumping. Yeah. And what about pandemic versus economy? Indonesia growth rate could contract further by 1.1% if second wave comes in. So now we are looking at minus 0.3, and this was a revised number in June 2020 by the IMF. Now, some countries are better in handling such pandemic and therefore are expected to bounce back quicker, such as China and, of course, Egypt. Now, China, Beijing in particular, is currently experiencing their second wave since June 2020. But so far, after lesson learned from the first wave, I suppose they are managing the second round fairly well and mirroring themselves from their counterparts in Taiwan. Now, the 9% difference between US and China economic growth rate might increase. Right now, as most of us have understand that they have been in a trade war even prior to COVID-19. So we will see about the difference. If it's gonna increase, but well, we hope it stays as it is, or the gap is closing in. Otherwise, it's not just the US and China that will suffer, but trading countries between US and China will definitely be affected, negatively affected in some ways as well. Every country on average revised their economic growth rate downwards from April towards June 2020. If you look at the table on your left-hand side, the old numbers and the new numbers that is projected in or revised in June 2020, a lot of them has gone even has dug themselves a deeper trench, has gone down even deeper. So this is not a good news, but this is a fact that all of us have to face. Now, what does this mean for business players like yourself and myself? We have to brace ourselves for worse days out there. Yeah. Now, how bad is it going to be, or are we going into recession? Now, let's take a look at this. Point number one talks about the inflation month to month that happened in May and June. That's largely due to household commodities such as broiler chicken. Well, if we have a lot of well, in Indonesian we call them emak-emak, emak-emak or housewives. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you understand what I'm talking about when we talk about May and June. Yeah, the price of chicken goes up, chicken eggs goes up, shallots goes up, garlic goes up, tomatoes and potatoes goes up. A lot of things goes up, especially during those Lebaran period. Now, I'm not saying that that causes us to fall into recession, but because of that inflation that happened during COVID-19, it adds on that it weigh down that momentum even further. Now, controlled inflation rate of 2020 is expected to stand at 2.19 YOY or year on year. This is due to the decrease in public demand because of the large-scale social distancing and during COVID. And sufficient supply and smooth logistical distribution network has helped tremendously to keep the number or that 2.19 at that level. Otherwise, it could be much worse than that. We also, or the government rather, rolled out credible stimulus packages which are aimed to suppress inflation. The IDR is undervalued and should strengthen by the end of the year if there's no second wave. So we are now looking at about 14.3, 14.6, thereabout, swinging thereabout. And if we were to drop, we expect rupiah against US dollar to fall to the level of maximum 15,000 per US dollar. Nothing deeper than that because the IDR at the moment is still undervalued. Foreign investment inflow has picked up since the second week of May. Yeah, so this is a good news. So are we really then going into recession? Ladies and gentlemen, in Indonesia itself, recession is a debated topic. It's a heated debate for the past 2 weeks. So a lot of media has broadcasted and questioned our financial resilience, if we are able to weather this current storm, and are we going to walk out of this, recession in a better light, or are we going to do worse than other countries? Now, let's take a look at the key driving factors first. At point number 5, foreign exchange reserves started to pick up by the end of May 2020, and Indonesian, one of the stimulus package that has been rolled out by the government indirectly, and it doesn't really affect much to business players like ourselves, is the monetary operations that includes the expansion and contraction. I'll brief out more on this later on, but please bear with me because this is important to know, but it is not crucial to business players. It is more for those players who purchase into government bonds. Now, Indonesian government, are they doing enough? Have we seen their results? First of all, the social healthcare benefit is rendered more difficult now than ever and unapproachable during pandemic, the time when everyone needed it the most. So it's not a good thing. It's not a positive signal. When we talk about the BPJS, we have seen during the pandemic the dilemma that the government has portrayed, where they actually increased slightly in terms of BPJS contribution, that forces all of us to fork out more money to pay for that social healthcare benefit. And it was rolled out during this pandemic. Well, not a good timing, but let's take a look at other factors. Bank Indonesia cuts its benchmark interest rate twice. Like I said earlier on, we are now down to 4.5%. Monetary operations. Now, previous to this slide, we were talking about monetary operations that cover expansion, that is repo state bond, and contractions, the reverse repo state bond. Yeah, so government themselves are buying over or repurchasing or repossessing that state bonds in order for them to be able to save a lot of SOEs out there. Maybe not for us, but SOEs. Number 4, additional quantitative easing or QE by injecting liquidity to the banking sector up to 35.9 billion US dollar. This is not a small amount. We will take a look at the breakdown later on. And number 5, OJK or MAS, if you would call it, like in Singapore, it's MAS or the Monetary Authority of a certain country. OJK is the regulation for banks to provide financing to local SMEs, and we will see how effective is this. Now, and of course, at number 6 kicks in the tax incentives, like many other countries, Singapore included. They have lowered, the government has tried to lower or subsidize the income tax, or in Indonesia, we call it PPH. Now, is this effective? Personally, I would, in my opinion, this helps to a certain extent, but if you were to ask me if this were to be effective, I would say not at all. Why? How so? Imagine this, an income tax, meaning it is taxable only upon you receiving an income as a business player or running a corporations. Now, during the pandemic, you're not looking at an income. You are talking about survivability. If you generate revenue, if your gross profit is even enough to cover for your costs and expenses in the office, I think that's, well, that is a relief enough. That's a good breather enough. A lot of companies out there are talking about making losses at the end of this year's closing. So is this effective for those companies? I don't think so. Now, what about the stimulus budget that has been spent by the government of Indonesia? When we talk about 49.66 billion, these are where the money goes out to. Now, why do I need to show this slide, or why have I created this slide in detail? Because a lot of us business players, we come from different backgrounds, different sectors. And due to the fact that a lot of us are coming from various industries and sectors, it is also good for us to understand where the stimulus are going. Will we be expecting something along our business line? Well, this slide says it all. Now, first of all, if you are talking about the public goods on the left-hand side, public goods or the reliefs that is spent by the government, as much as 28.4 billion US dollar at this point in time, 6.25 billion US dollar will go to the health sector, including health spending, medical incentives, bereavement payout, medical support, COVID-19 frontliner, or in Indonesian, we call it the gugus tugas, and as well as the health tax incentives. Unfortunately, nothing is going to the BPJS at this point. Next is the social security, worth 14.56 billion. It goes to your social aid, pre-employment support, electricity discount that has been going on, and only for certain classes of electricity subscribers. It goes to you providing basic supplies, or we know as bansos or bantuan sosial, to small villages and the underprivileged. It goes out to logistics for the bansos, and as well as cash aids or dana tunai for villagers who are trying to survive it out there. And in sectoral aspect, we are seeing 7.58 billion US dollars that will help within the labor intensive programs, tourism and travel. So if you are within the tourism and travel, there are stimulus that is being pushed out to you, providing if you are still in operation. Yeah. Now, this tourism and travel in particular, they are looking at airlines, they are looking at hotels, and as well as inbound travel providers. Now, part of it will also go and aid in economic recovery of Indonesian finance situation, regional loan facilities, expansion budget, and ad hoc budget. Now, that's on the public goods or the relief. On economic recovery in detail, although economic recovery has been, a portion of sectoral money is going into economic recovery, but that's not going to be enough. More budget has been allocated for Indonesian economic recovery, and we are looking at 21.26 billion that goes to SMEs for interest subsidy, loan restructuring, capital loan, corporate income taxes for SMEs, investment financing to local cooperatives. And we really do hope that loan restructuring will be much better and happen and will be rolled out in a much more systematic way by the banks. Yeah, right now, unfortunately, the banks are not doing enough to push this out. They're being very, very meticulous, careful about it, which then in turn causing the absorption rate for this stimulus budget not being properly absorbed. Now, business incentives worth 8.62 billion. It goes in to support further into the corporate income taxes, although there has been some part for SMEs, but these are for medium and large scale businesses. And import tax incentives, withholding tax installment support, your PPH 25, and GST restitution support, which allows companies for tax restitution to be able to conduct it in a quicker way so that their cash flow are somewhat supported, restitusi pajak in this aspect. And as well as other stimulus that goes within the business incentives. Now, last but not least, for large corporations, 3.83 billion is supplied to them to subsidize their current deposits. It goes into injecting more capital to save a lot of SOEs out there and to support for business liquidity, and as well as to provide further loans for SOEs. SOEs in Indonesian, we refer to them as BUMN, yeah, or state-owned enterprises. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the number, and therefore I'm just going to flash this out very briefly and move forward. But I would like to highlight what happened with this table. Now, when we talk about financial modeling, model 1, 2, 3, and 4 are looking at different things when we are actually comparing our real GDP across the financial sector. Now, to effectively measure Indonesian economy and the financial sector, we need to take a look at the real GDP And the financial sector, who is supporting who? It's like a chicken and egg. When we talk about point number one, dependent variable, when we test this under the financial development growth, the real GDP, if our real GDP goes up by 1%, the financial sector goes up by 0.41%. However, if we reverse the model and we look at financial sector being increased by 1%, what about real GDP? It goes up only by 0.06%. What does this mean to all of us? That means, first of all, yes, it is proven that Indonesia is a demand following instead of supply leading in terms of its economy. However, what does this mean to us as business player is that in Indonesia, in particular, when we talk about the economy, we are trying to scrutinize and take a deeper look. Has the government successfully provided stimulus to actually incentivize a lot of businesses out there in Indonesia so that we are able to survive? Now, the answer is yes. It's good to know that because a lot of money, a lot of budget, a lot of incentives has gone to support the real GDP, the growth of real GDP of Indonesia, the financial sector will be expected to bounce back at a bigger rate as compared to if you increase the financial sector first before the real GDP. Now, this is good news for business players because that means there will be a lot of allocations that goes out to business players out there. Now, let's take a look at this quickly. Wholesale and retail business and industry, if you are dealing with those, NPL or non-performing loan is currently analyzed to be relatively stable in comparison to the loans, meaning that it's still within the safe zone. And although we are looking at a lot of loan and debt restructuring, which is common at this point in time, that is still all right. However, it needs to be maintained so that NPL will not go shoot up, skyrocket, so that investment will still be positive within this this sector. Now, while we take a look at manufacturing, trends upwards in comparison to the loans, agriculture, hunting and forestry downwards. Construction, however, is downwards. Yeah, downwards meaning good. Yeah, manufacturing isn't really doing so well in that aspect because the NPL trends upwards instead of downwards. Yeah, and what does this ratio means? By the way, I will skip through details such as these and boil down straight to business. These details will be found later on when we share the slides here. And when that happens, feel free to still shoot across more questions to me via email. But the most important point from here, the key takeaway from this one slide is that domestic credit growth could be dampened. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Now, how is the Indonesian business climate for Q4 2020 and beyond looking at? Are we looking at a turmoil? Are we looking at a big hoo-ha out there? Now, government plans to allocate additional $3.8 billion by 2021 to revive the economy. So that's good news for a lot of us business players. It goes out to non-operational expenditures, social security programs, economic recovery. And what will economic recovery focus on? Travel and tourism. And that is super priority, and especially super priority tourist destinations. Infrastructure and construction and the SMEs. Now, a lot of you might be questioning, what about travel and tourism? Nobody travel now. A lot of VCs or PEs out there even pinpoint to the fact that travel and tourism is a dead industry at this point in time. However, when we talk about economic recovery, we are talking about investing money for future growth. We are not talking about investing money for today's benefit. You are not looking at an ROI on the day when you invest. So hence, travel and tourism will still continue to be a sustainable industry to look at in the future. Yeah, so To physics and PEs, if you are not looking at this sector yet, perhaps you might want to revisit the idea because yes, well, we are looking at a really bad time for travel and tourism at this point in time. But again, with the government support, this is not going to be the same case for long down the road. Every country will need to revive travel and tourism sector in order for them to be able to pick up with their domestic economy. Oh, Singapore especially. Now, GDP to be expected to bounce back to 2.5 in 2021 Q1, particular to Indonesia. Inflation, however, will blow to 3.3 and 3.7, and interest rate might be revised down to 3.75 if there is a second wave. Good thing is that business confidence index is bouncing back to 1.05 points. Schools and campuses are expected to open by early 2021, and labor-intensive projects are expected to absorb workers to decrease the unemployment rate. The government challenges for Q4 2020 and beyond will be, we will have a lot of pressure. First of all, we are talking about increased income gap disparity. Well, we talked about unemployment earlier on, and we talked about how COVID-19 has affected the lives of many with retrenchments going on and so on and so forth. The poorer are going to get poorer, and the rich might just stay where they are, being rich. So income gap disparity is going to get greater, and that increase in income gap disparity might cause much problem than just beyond economical issues. For instance, it would be creating a lot of negative social impacts with the increase of crime rates in Indonesia. When we talk about public infrastructure, the government is faced with a dilemma. They are trying to quicken up the pace or pick up the pace to build a lot of public infrastructure. They have pumped in a lot of capital expenditure earlier on to really boost the public infrastructure in Indonesia in a bid to increase the economy and to really make logistics less of a hassle and less costly than it is right now. However, we are looking at the dilemma that will be faced by the government when public infrastructure kicks in post-COVID. What about the budget? What about the previously allocated monies? Will there be enough to go around for public infrastructure? Or will the government prioritize health projects, pandemic recovery, economic recovery, and so on and so forth? So the public infrastructure budget will be a huge dilemma and a huge challenge that the government has to face in Indonesia within Q4 and beyond. Unemployment versus digitalization. When we talk about digitalization, we talk about digital transformation. We talk about laying off people, making people redundant. People will be replaced by robots, people will be replaced by AIs, machines, and so on and so forth. That, however, is a positive aspect of industrialization. However, the negative or the downside of digitalization is, of course, the unemployment side. Now, we talk about increased unemployment. Will digitalization be a solution to unemployment in Indonesia? Maybe not within the short time frame. And the government will have to take into consideration currently those labor-intensive manufacturing sectors for the workers. Where are they going to place the workers after digitalization takeover? Low educational attainment in rural areas will also cause a problem. Now, this is not something new that we face over and beyond during COVID-19. This has been an ongoing issue in Indonesia. Now, however, this issue is going to be more apparent when digitalization kicks in, because those people are going to be made redundant if they are not able to catch up with technologies. They are not able to adopt technology as part of their lifestyle. They do not attain certain requirement within the educational sector. Then they will be they are going to be out of prospect, and they are not going to be looked at during employment. So we talk about, again, this tie-in into unemployment rate in Indonesia. Environmental protection. Ladies and gentlemen, if you take a look at the picture on the right-hand side, we are talking about income gap disparity. You have got the high-rise building, you have got the poor people standing on the foreground. But when we talk about environmental protection, one of the largest damages that we have done to the environment of Indonesia is that of using plastics. The government has stamped down hardly on this recently, especially Q2 2020, and they are still coming down hard on those usage of plastics. What they should be doing at this point in time really is to allow alternatives of plastics, because this is not something that is easy to just tell people that, hey, you shouldn't be using plastics. Hey, you shouldn't be using a plastic carrier to carry your shopping stuff and all that. No, but rather the government should come up with a replacement and tell people that, look, we all should be moving into paper bags. We all should be moving into something recyclable. Now, once that aspect has been strengthened, once people has been encouraged and properly learned the cause and effect of using such thing, they would move on willingly. Yeah. So again, environmental protection, plastic bags is just one aspect, but again, but the main point here really boils down to that of, will the government really have enough budget to spend on environmental protection post-COVID? Because we are looking at a different allocation of budget during and post-COVID. Now, we talk about income gap that increases wildly in the future, unemployment rate that increases, plus low educational attainment. This is not a good formula for success in digitalization. When we talk about digitalizing a company or bringing a digital transformation to a company, we have to talk about higher educational attainment in order for them to be able to follow through the advancement in technology. We are talking about, however, if you are looking at people trying to catch up with technology, you have to allow the income gap to close up. You can't have such a huge income gap where the poor are really so very poor that they can't even accept technology, that they can't even afford to purchase a simple technology. Now, how do we expect them to embrace technology in digitalization? That's not going to happen. However, within the past 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, there has been a lot of news going on the newspaper, on TV. Mata Najwa has been sharing it, and there has been a heated debate. Are we, as a nation of Indonesia, really going into recession? Are we or are we not? To me personally, in my opinion, looking at all these factors, judging from the numbers that we have, looking at the real GDP that is circulating within the country, domestically, recession is imminent. It's nothing to debate anymore. It's nothing for us to say, are we looking at a recession? Are we not looking at a recession? But rather, recession is already here. We need to wake up and embrace it and try to find ways to sustain ourselves in the months to come. Now, what we are looking at in the shift of paradigm in consumer spending behavior. Now, what I highlight within this presentation is this, because it is important for business players to understand consumer spending behavior first before trying to come up with a product, goods, or services that they think they would want to push out there to the public. Now, first of all, consumers are going to be very prudent in spending. We are starting to be very prudent. We are not going to the cinema anymore. We don't spend money on karaoke anymore. We don't eat out that often anymore. This will set our thinking to that of, hey, look, if I don't go out there so often, if I don't spend the money in cinemas or cafes, restaurant, or anywhere else, I actually have much more to save. And a lot of consumers nowadays have already been slapped with the idea that, look, what you should be spending on in this time should really be on basic necessities. You shouldn't look anything else beyond that. You shouldn't look at luxury goods or luxury spendings that you used to be anymore. We are talking about majority of consumers where we are all talking about the middle income earners, yeah, middle range. We're not talking about the extremely rich where they might have a certain lifestyle to fulfill. We are talking about the majority here. Point number two looks at disbursements of investments that are expected to reach only 60% up to June 2021. Now, a lot of investors out there, although we expect investors, or we thought investors to be forward-looking, forward-thinking, and they invest for the future, they are, in fact, nowadays being very prudent and more prudent. I think Mrs. Liguina, Mrs. Liguina's husband, who works in VC, understand this very well, because investors are trying to hold back on a lot of investments, and they only make those really necessary investments where they can see that it's going to get them an ROI within a shorter time frame. Now, let me go back to that slide. Let me go back to previous slide. Okay, here we are. Point number three looks at luxury industry. When we look at luxury industry, as I mentioned earlier on, where consumers are more prudent in spending, luxury industry will take big hit. Luxury industry sectors will suffer deeper trench due to a shift of paradigm in consumer spending behavior. People are no longer looking at LV bags anymore. Well, even if they are, where are they going to take that LV bags out to? There's nowhere to go out to at the moment. And as well as luxury cars, and so on and so forth. And this is one of the major reasons why we are talking about the US being in a deeper trench as they are at the moment, because a lot of their manufacturing sectors rely on the luxury and high-end industry sectors. Therefore, even if they were to produce, nobody is purchasing it. So again, we are talking about US worse hit than Indonesia. Used car market has dropped by 60% to 90%, and this is apparent. This is a phenomena that we already currently observe in Indonesia. We are not talking about far away in the States. We are not looking at China, but we are talking about us, Indonesia. Therefore, as I mentioned earlier on, consumers are more prudent in terms of spending. At this point in time, they don't travel as much, so used car market has slumped to that low. Global economy will experience further drag and uncertainty due to trade war. If we take a look at how it's interesting to observe how China and US trade has recently tried to derail the country in betweens. In terms of the economy, in terms of the trade that has been dragged along, we see the drag. We see the tension there. Now, recent months comes in India. So again, are we going to talk about the drag, or are we going to take the opportunity out of this tug war? If you talk about Indonesia in particular, I would say that Indonesia stand to benefit from the trade war between US and China. One of the major reasons is that because the United States placed a hefty 25% import tariffs on goods that is coming in to the United States from China. Now, this has placed us at a certain advantage. Now, things that's coming in from Indonesia is at 0% import tariff. Yeah. Please note that import tariff is different from import taxes. Yeah, import taxes are import taxes that is applicable fairly across all countries. However, tariffs are something of a premium. It depends on where the certain goods are coming in from. Now, goods that's coming in, again, goods that's coming in from China into the US will have a 25% import tariff on top of tax. Now, that, of course, does not place their products on a good edge. So therefore, we have seen a lot of Chinese companies, Chinese manufacturing companies, move their manufacturing companies to produce in Indonesia so that they are able to still export to the United States without having to worry for that 25% import tariffs. So if you ask me, yes, we stand to gain more than we stand to lose. However, having said that, whenever there are countries that is tucking here and there within a trade war, we will experience the drag as well in terms of economy, less that of a trade. Point number 6, up to 48% small and micro businesses has closed down due to COVID-19. In Indonesia, they are one of the worst hit businesses, aside, of course, from hotels. When we talk about small and micro businesses, a lot of them are negatively impacted, and some of them are indirectly impacted due to COVID-19. How so? Let's take a look at the fact that small and micro businesses in Indonesia or anywhere else in the world is a household business. Usually a household business would mean that maybe the wife perhaps will be running a home-based industry, whereas the husband will be out there, being employed somewhere in a company, so that the husband could actually supply the capital expenditure for the wife to spend within their home-based small and micro businesses. Now, what happens if that capital line is cut off? What happens if the husband is retrenched? Of course, it will impact deeply down. It will trickle down to those small and micro businesses. They would have to be closed down because they don't have much cash flow revolving within the home-based business. Therefore, up to 48%, and this is a current data up to date, we might be looking at more if second wave hits Indonesia. Well, we are all hoping not to, but realistically speaking, we have to brace for that moment to come. Point 7, Bappenas data predicted poverty will increase by 5.71 million more people. Now, 5.71 more people than what we are looking at today is quite a large increase within such a short time frame. Therefore, this is going to be very, very apparent. As I said earlier on, income gap is going to get drifted further apart. That gap is going to get bigger, not because the rich are getting richer, but rather the poor are getting poorer. Therefore, Bappenas has already predicted that poverty will increase by 5.71 million more people within the nation in the next few months. We are talking about this prediction that is going to be valid for from now until Q4, until the end of Q4 2020, which is end of the year 2020, if there is no second wave. Point number 8 is that a lot of us have started to understand, a lot of consumers have not much of an option, rather, but to buy local. Now, this is a good thing because when we buy local produce, when we buy locally manufactured products, we are increasing domestic spending and consumption. Now, every cent spent is a contribution to help local economy to recover quicker. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would personally urge all of you out there and please bring these words out there and relay this message to every colleagues, peers, friends, and families that we should continue to buy local even if we know that there might be some imported goods. Let's try to revive the local economy in Indonesia together. Hand in hand, you and I can do this in a better light. So therefore, buy local, keep the money circulating locally, and by doing so, we are also helping those small and micro businesses. Hopefully, nothing more, or no more small and micro businesses that has to close down. Yeah, let's try to save everybody on the same boat. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are now on a sinking large vessel like a Titanic. Now, each lifeboat is how each country will take care of their own people and to save their own people. If we do not take this part, if we do not play the part of us saving our own economy, there is nothing much the government can do really. So buy local, even if you have the option of imported goods. Now, what are we looking at the end of the tunnel? Are we seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, or are we seeing darker days ahead? Globally, happy news are coming in. The vaccine is expected to be mass produced by 2021 Q1. And this news is not coming out from me, it's coming out from CNBC. And the best part of it is that two large manufacturing pharmaceuticals in the United States are in the race of creating this vaccine. They have already created it. They have already successfully run clinical trials. Right now, both of them are competing to mass produce by 2021 Q1. Now, why is this a good thing when there are two or more companies rushing to produce this vaccine? That means that the price will not be a monopoly within the market. So therefore, the retail price might make more sense. Point number two, rising and sustainable sectors globally. In the future, we are talking about health tech, we are talking about fintech and cashless payments, including biometric payment, because everybody will want to have less contact, yeah, and less touching of that money where everybody have touched it before. And we are talking about the revival of the travel and tourism sector. If you are within the travel and tourism sector, please hang on to whatever that you are doing at the moment. We will be seeing the light at the end of the tunnel very soon. And consumers are just dying to get out there to travel once again, be it for business or pleasure. So hang on tight, because you will expect, or you should be expecting, a sudden surge in travel and tourism sector within the next couple of months. What about Indonesia? Are we seeing better days? Yes, of course. With, first of all, again, strategic location of ours that is placed between the Asia and Pacific, China and the United States. They are playing this tug of war, the trade war. Therefore, it places us at a logistical and distribution advantage, and even to the extreme point of manufacturing advantage. So a lot of companies out there are moving to Indonesia. The China and US trade war has increased those tensions that increases between China and US has placed an advantage between Indonesia and China, because Indonesia and China, we are trading partners. We are very close trading partners. And of course, with their manufacturing companies moving into Indonesia, with them settling logisticals and distribution within Indonesia before sending it out to the United States, of course, it places us at an even closer relationship of trade between us and China. Point number three, the government aims to be in the top 6 largest economies by 2030. Our second largest production will be rubber in the world. Yeah, other major crops include rice, sugarcane, coffee, tea, tobacco, palm oil, coconuts, and spices. But what does this mean? I mean, we have all the time been producing rice, sugarcane, coffee, tea, tobacco, and so on, and this is nothing new. However, the fact that our government aims to be in the top 6 largest economies by 2030 means that they will be exporting a lot of our agricultural produce rather than the manufacturing sector. Therefore, this is good news for those who are playing within those commodities. Point number 4, we are one of the world's biggest nickel ore producer and major exporter of stainless steel. Companies like Krakatau Steel stand to gain from here, of course. But then again, we are talking about stainless steel being the future of buildings in the world, and therefore this will continue to have high demand. Therefore, Indonesia stands strong because we have powerful manufacturing here with stainless steel, and we have crops such as rice, sugarcane, coffee, tea, tobacco, a never-ending, a keep on circulating sort of commodities, and of course one of the mainly traded commodities, nickel ore. And that's the reason why there are a lot of Chinese companies moving into Morowali, the south of Sulawesi. Point number 5, Indonesian government is very focused on providing support and close watch on domestic consumption, investment, and export as the nation's engine of growth. The government, especially Mrs. Sri Mulyani, our finance minister, understand very, very well that Indonesia's engine of growth lies in these 3 pillars: consumption, domestic consumption, investment, and export. Therefore, if we are talking about business, let's take a look at what are what sort of manufacturing industries or what sort of goods or services that is being produced for domestic consumption that will be supported by the government in the future. And of course, anything along the line of bringing in foreign direct investment into the country will be supported in terms of the taxes, in terms of the ease of doing business with Indonesia, also will be much supported by the government. And of course, export goods will be one of the key highlights here as well. So if you are within those sectors, you stand to gain from now and beyond. Tourism is a major source of revenue in Indonesia, with the government expecting the country to become a leading Asian and world tourism destination by 2045 with 73 million tourists. Now, where do all these people go to? A lot of you might have understood that Indonesian government, especially the Minister of Tourism in Indonesia, have pumped in a lot of effort and a lot of budget to improve those tourism sites in Indonesia. Now, aside from that, there are super priority. This is just a leak for a lot of you out there. In Indonesia, the government has already appointed super priority tourism and attraction places. What does that mean? That means a lot of those budget from the Minister of Tourism will go into fortifying those tourism spots so that local economies within those places will flourish like never before. Now, again, what does this happen for many travel and tourism players who have not much of a concerns, or if they are not in existence within those localities considered to be super priority attractions? Now, do they stand to gain anything? Obviously, of course they do. Because with the government supporting tourism in Indonesia as far and as beyond as this is, of course, they will stand to gain with that 73 million tourists that's flowing into Indonesia by 2045. This is a target set to Minister of Tourism, and a lot of budget, a lot of emphasis, a lot of support has been given from the Minister of Finance to the Ministry of Tourism of Indonesia in this aspect. So, yes, we are talking about 73 million. It's a high number. It's a very aggressive target, but not unachievable. It's still within reach if we are talking about 2045. Point number 7, nationwide infrastructure development. We now look at Java Island. The whole of entire Java Island has been more connected than before, with a lot of expressways, with a lot of railways and MRTs being built. And of course, China is behind the picture. They aid in realizing that One Belt Road dream along and in Indonesia is again strategically located to earn that advantage. Point number 8, improved infrastructure would mean enhanced service quality for logistics. And it means lower cost of transport. And the best part of it is that it increases employment in that sector, the infrastructure sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, if your labor have the experience, capability, and of course would like to join the infrastructure sector, that's where they should be going, instead of keeping tight within the retail sector. The retail sector will be still will stay will stay low in the next couple of months. Will stay well, they are trying to survive, they are trying to bounce back, but digitalization has to happen. When digitalization kicks in for these retailers, of course, we are looking at unemployment on that sector. Now, where can we put these unemployed people to? We can push them into the infrastructure and construction sector, where we talk about more people are needed there to quickly build more roads, more MRTs, more LRTs, and so on and so forth. Point number 9, Jokowi has pushed the current government to increase spending, focusing on domestic products and industries while putting a brake on import consumption in an effort to drive up overall economy. This is a good news for local businesses. This will be the chance for you to shine and really produce for local or domestic consumption, because imports has been halted, and import quota and import tariff has been heightened up. Therefore, you will see a lot more domestic products being circulated within Indonesia, less that of imported goods. And again, we don't just end there for Indonesia. There are a lot of hopes that's being pinned and put within the country, such as point number 10, increased credit rating for Indonesia to BBB+. We just received the news a couple of months back that Indonesia has now been upgraded to investment grade, yeah, and income per capita has increased prior to COVID. Yeah, now during COVID, every country, every country suffered. So that is not going to affect our investment grade or credit rating within in the context of competition level with other countries. However, again, one loophole we have to watch out is the income gap disparity, where it might derail our attainment within the income per capita attainment. Yeah, so far we have been awarded, we have achieved recognition in terms of the increment of income per capita from low to medium. Now, we do not sit on that laurel because COVID-19 has obviously proven otherwise. We still have to push ourselves ahead so that we still can maintain this attainment. Yeah. Now, what does this achievement say about Indonesia when we talk about we being upgraded to BBB+, being an investment grade country? Income per capita has increased from low to medium. What does this mean? Is this just a good news for all of us to sit on? Of course not. This would mean that our country will become more investable. A lot of foreign direct investors are going to look into Indonesia post-COVID 2021 and beyond. So therefore, this is a good news. We have to brace ourselves and to really maintain our domestic circulation of cash flow. Now, what do we do? What did we do to earn this investment grade? First of all, positive economic projections due to firmer political grounds with Jokowi. and Bu Sri Mulyani, and of course some other ministries as well. However, we shouldn't be complacent to this, and we should work on it to maintain these positive economic projections on the base of firmer political grounds. Whoever that is going to be elected on the next presidential seat should really qualify as much as they are with Jokowi. People with proven background, yeah, so no longer talk about titipan and so on. Titipan, by the way, in Indonesia really means people who are being put in a certain position because of relationship base. They know someone within. Secondly, fiscal deficit is maintained as debt to GDP ratio that is kept low. So therefore, low fiscal deficit is a good thing for our country. It's an investment grade again. And of course, the best part of it is the sufficient foreign reserves against short-term loans. Again, we are talking about 36% loan ratio, debt ratio to our GDP. Therefore, that increased our nation rating to be investment grade, or triple B plus. Point number 11, incoming investment from 7 major manufacturing companies from China, Japan, and Korea that has been confirmed, plus 17 others in the pipeline, will definitely help boost the local economy, plus employment, plus domestic production. Now, this will put us to a more competitive and to a more competitive edge. And the reason for this to happen is that our fixed and labor costs are more competitive as compared to Shenzhen and Suzhou in China. 0% import tariff products from Indonesia into US as compared to the current 25% import tariff for products from China directly into the United States. And as well as there has been, in recent years, we have seen increased demand from Indonesian domestic market for Chinese goods or for other countries' products, such as handphones from Korea and Japan, and as well as, of course, the automotive industry. Indonesia, as export base, with its strategic advantages and geographical positioning, allowing market access to Australia and rest of Asia. So look at it this way. Indonesia does not just open up its door or the opportunity of producing Chinese manufactured goods into the United States, but also we help to open up the market access to the rest of Asia, such as Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, and of course, Australia. Is this going to be a good time to invest? Well, first of all, let's take a look at the points on the left-hand side. If we commit our investment now, what does that mean to us as investors? We help the current overall economic situation to drive spending again, domestic spending on domestic produce. Encourage business survivability, especially local SMEs for local SMEs and creative startups. Perhaps the only CSR that provides interesting returns. Now, what sort of CSR is this? When you invest, you are talking about CSR as well. Yeah. Now, how is this touching to the point of CSR? When we talk about investment into creative local startups, you are keeping the money revolving within Indonesia, first of all. Secondly, by investing at this point in time to those creative startups, those online startups, that means you are actually encouraging more budding entrepreneurs to be bolder, to go out there and to survive and to find new niche in terms of business. And you are playing a part in terms of the transformation of local businesses into something else in Indonesia. Aside from that, of course, a lot of those startups are online businesses. Therefore, these businesses are more sustainable, they do not have to undergo through much of a revolution. And if they do, it's easier for them to add on feature, scale up, scale down. And of course, such businesses are more resilient in the face of pandemics such as COVID-19, because people do not have to physically interact within one another. They will just shop at the click of a few buttons, or do whatever that they need to do online at the click of a few buttons, without having to meet people. Now, why is this a CSR, and how is that touching to the point of CSR? At this point in time, that CSR, of course, is not a CSR that usually or normally looks at taking care of the local communities, or building greenery around your spots or areas, but rather this CSR encourages local small and micro businesses or creative startups to survive and to thrive within this time. This is the best time to negotiate for you investors out there for more lucrative investment deals, because a lot of companies, a lot of businesses are in need of cash flow at the moment. And to provide that support, you are in a better position to negotiate, and you have more bargaining power. COVID-19 has proven to us that most creative online business or startups thrives and will be the way of life in the future. That is the new lifestyle. I'm not saying companies like Agoda. I'm not talking about companies like Booking.com. However, the rest of online businesses, they thrive. Health tech sector, insurance such as Fuse, e-commerce, marketplace, they thrive like never before. Now, I'm not saying that Agoda and Booking has a bad business model. No, they don't. And they find it hard to survive now. Yes, that's true, because not many people travels. However, these businesses do not go out of business. They don't go bankrupt. They don't, they may do layoff. They may have a cut in the salary and so on and so forth. But you will see that they will continue to thrive when pandemic blows over. And that will be the new way of us living. We don't go to travel agents anymore. We don't go to do offline consultation, where to go, what to do when we are at our destination country anymore. But rather, everything goes online. Invest in the future. For investors out there, please take a longer look at your investment term. Be more forward-looking, be more explorative, because you are really investing in the future. You are not investing for today's return. You are not asking about tomorrow's ROI, but rather a year, 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years down the road. What should I invest in? If you're an investor, try to look into creative online startups, verticals and horizontals, logistics and freight forwarding businesses. This will be the good timing to jump into such sectors. Land and properties, because land have now become more negotiable than ever before. Travel and tourism, of course, will be the best timing for you to jump in. But of course, when you jump into travel and tourism sector, you should be very choosy and picky about travel and tourism sector, because you would want to invest into creative travel and tourism that has not yet been launched, not those that has already been launched, not investing into the big boys, because now they are suffering. You should be really planting your money into the new niche travel and tourism that is going to be launched or about to be launched post-COVID, and they are ready to be launched. If you need to know more about this sector, you may wish to talk to me. I am very into the sector of travel and tourism, and I would be able to share more with you what niche are we talking about and what are the details that we should be catching on before investing. Now, manufacturing sector. Of course, manufacturing is not across the board, but rather manufacturing of general products, daily necessities, basic necessities. Essential goods and services, retailing, if you're retailing on essential goods and services, this will be a good time as well. But please try to move your business online instead of having it hardcore offline. Medical and health will be an area to look at as well, because in the future, people are not inclined to go to hospitals. COVID-19, for one thing, it teaches us that if we go to the hospitals at this point in time, we might just encounter someone who is suspected of COVID-19. And when we are cleared of COVID-19, we may not come back from hospital the same way. So therefore, Yes, medical and health is a very good area to look into as well in the future because everybody will try to consult online. Or any other businesses that promotes quality working, living, playing from home. Um, Perhaps in the line of furnitures, perhaps in the line of home improvement, so on and so forth. What do you want to do most post-COVID? Market research, and this market research has been conducted by Alvara Research Center. Um, Most people would say visit tourist attractions or traveling. And this is good news. Again, this is the reason why I am actually promoting and why I have been emphasizing all this while. If you were to invest within traveling and tourism will be a good timing at the moment, but travel and tourism industries that is yet to be launched, not those that has already been in operation. Yeah. Now, others less than 0.1%, we see that though there will be changes in lifestyle, people tend to try to return to their normal activities, such as look at the top three. Aside from traveling, you are talking about people trying to get back to work, gathering with friends and family, carry out normal routine, returning to home village or mudik, and these places as the top five options for people's selection, what they want to do post COVID-19. These are the things that people will get back to do once this thing blows over. Uh, Please note that the sampling data and data research over here are by and for Indonesia. So it may not apply to the Singapore market or the Malaysian market. New workplace reality. Well, our working days will be more flexible and digital with a deeper culture and awareness level. We have to be able to provide technology and environment to optimize those. Elastic collaboration. People are trying to rapidly deploy collaboration tools across the organization and build bridges with customers, partners, and suppliers, whether that bridge is a virtual bridge online or otherwise. This is going to happen, and we are going to see more collaborations within companies in the future. So if, let's say, your company in the past, for example, let's say you are a manufacturing company or you are a service provider, and you are trying to control your employees by going digital and create a software for yourself. In the future, this is not going to happen anymore. People want things more instantly, more accurately, and they will end up collaborating with other companies to onboard their system instead of having to create something from zero. We will see a lot more virtual work environment, such as this, Microsoft Teams. Zoom is happening across the globe at a very, it's picking up at a very viral rate, and we will see more seamless networking. What do we mean by seamless networking? Seamless networking enables reliable and secure remote network connectivity to employees, homes, and seamless integration with customers and partners. Therefore, invest in a good database server. Yeah, that server has to be placed in your office and to allow people to work seamlessly everywhere or at home, they will have to be able to gain access to those servers. We talk about distributed continuity, where enhanced business continuity plans include reduction in workforce, travel restrictions, and large-scale remote working environments are going to be in place. And even when we talk about distributed continuity, we are talking about less working hours as well. Yeah, and that will equate to more quality time or more family time at home. Adaptive security. When we talk about adding on or bringing on database server, when we talk about bringing the best of the server so that we can encourage seamless networking or elastic collaboration, and even to the extent of a virtual work environment, to support that, we must ensure that these are locked by adaptive security. Every now and then, everybody goes online. The more people go online, the wilder hackers are going to try to attack at any point. Therefore, security systems has to be more adaptive. We are looking at leverage exception-based process, extend zero trust, network access approach, automate with endpoint management detection and response. With us having to work seamlessly across from home or from anywhere else, meaning that technology will know where we are at a certain point in time. Privacy issue is going to be something that we have to deal with in the future, something serious along that line. In the future, we are talking about IoT, Internet of Things. When that happens, you will see that privacy will be very much compromised. This information comes out from Accenture's research, and four largest consumer mega shift that we are going to observe in the future will be briefed in greater detail by Mrs. Liguina in the second segment of this discussion. But before we go into detail with Mrs. Liguina, let me just inform you, what are we really looking at in the future? What is that mega shift that everybody has been talking about? First of all, stay-at-home lifestyle will be very, very emphasized. Therefore, you'll be looking at businesses to support this. That will be a good business to go in. Secondly, on the left-hand side, go virtual. Everybody goes virtual. Meetings go virtual. Business transaction goes virtual. Signing of NDA or an agreement or a document, LOI, and so on and so forth, go virtual with the signatures on a PDF document. Therefore, everybody has to be on board with virtual lifestyle. Like it or not, we are moving towards that direction. Technology rules us in the future. Therefore, we need to know what we are dealing with here. First of all, secondly, embrace technology. Thirdly, if you are within technological sector of the business, you have to be much more advanced than where we are today. Third point on the right-hand side, moving on to empathic society. We see a lot of people affected. A lot of our lives are affected because of COVID-19. And some people, to the extent of having known someone, or perhaps even people as close as their own family members, passing on due to COVID-19. Not a good news. It's a very sad news. It's a very disheartening news. But then this move everybody to be more empathic. We are going to be more compassionate. We are going to seek solace in religion or alternatives. And again, it's a good idea if you want to take religion virtually. And last but not least, the bottom of the pyramid. We talked about Maslow's, the very famous Maslow's hierarchy of human needs that dictate how we live our life, or how do we actually bring consumer to shift from their basic needs up to the top tier of that triangle, where they have to achieve self-actualization and esteem by purchasing luxury products. However, it is now changing. Be very careful. Maslow's hierarchy of human needs will now be, we will experience a major shift there, maybe even, well, I would call it a derailment of that triangle. People are no longer trying to climb to the top by showing off luxurious goods, by purchasing anything that is expensive, imported goods. They do not place themselves within that small little triangle up there on the cone of self-actualization and esteem by that. Rather, they will be showing it by power, by knowledge, by the capability in terms of technological deployment, and so on and so forth. Now, where are we with our daily needs? A lot of us, if not most of us, will be moving downwards towards the bottom of the pyramid, safety and physiological needs. That's your basic needs, your health needs, your food and your drinks, and so on and so forth, your housing. So we are all now, instead of progressing upwards in that triangle, we are now moving towards the bottom. This is the 100 predictions new normal after COVID-19, how this is going to affect our family life, urban life and the city, social and religious life, digital life and privacy, learning and schooling, and so on and so forth. Now, why is it important for us to understand these 100 points? For example, let me just take urban life and the city, for example. How is this affecting you as a person? How is this affecting us as human being, as living being, living within the community? Point number 7, end of the city as we know it. Cities are going to be more seamless. People are going to travel in and out. There's no such thing as city A to city B anymore. It's just a virtual boundary. Uh, let's take a look at number 9, healthier and greener city. Everybody will take health more heavily at this point in time. Therefore, you'll be seeing greener city everywhere else. Point number 10, digital city. Everything is going to be smart city, smart town, smart homes, and so on and so forth. And what does this mean for all of us? This means that if we are going to think about business, bring you back down to business ground again. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are thinking about business, how is this 100 prediction going to be useful to me, you, and many entrepreneurs out there? Let's take a look at point number 10. If everybody is going towards digital city, like our new capital that's currently being built in Kalimantan as we speak, that is going to be a smart capital, by the way. Therefore, you will be moving along the line of technology, whether you are providing technology consultancy services or providing the hardware, the software, server-side networking, and so on and so forth. That is the direction to move. Yeah. And that's all I have for you to share today. Again, this is my mobile number and that's my email address. The 4 flags there shows what languages I'm speaking, mainly English, Bahasa Indonesia, Mandarin, and as well as Bahasa Melayu. And I am currently rendering my service at Eracom Group, a technological company, as well as Walawili, a startup, a very creative startup that I am very excited to share with you. If you are interested to find out more, please contact me on my mobile number or reach me out to my email address. And I am recently on board with the Singapore Space and Technology as a business mentor as well. So these are the current establishment that I am currently working under. And I'm excited to learn more from your side as well if you would like to reach out. All right, so I will hand it back to you, Nico and Nabila.
Thank you so much for your terrific presentation. So we all know that the worst case of this pandemic is our economic growth could be dropped 5.6%, though our government has spent trillion rupiahs in terms to support business activities, health, and social security. Furthermore, there are many challenges ahead in front of us, such as an income gap, unemployment rate, and transformation in digitalization. I also underline your sentence, do we have enough money to survive? We will talk about this, about managing our expenses with its expert, right, Bila?
Right, Nico. Moving along, our next speaker, Ibu Liguina, will be presenting on how to manage personal expenses and new behavior in the new normal era. Ibu Liguina, the screen is yours.
Terima kasih. Selamat siang semuanya. I don't speak very good English because I speak Australian. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see everybody here. My name is Lee Greena. I'm a Curtin graduate, and I would like to say that I was at Curtin about 20 years ago, but actually it's not 20 years ago. It's 24 years ago. That's how long it has been. I know you guys are probably laughing at the idea. Yeah, this is basically skincare, okay? If any of you were at Curtin, at Bentley campus and Joondalup campus for the summer, because I actually failed Macroeconomics 101, which Ryan was explaining just now, and I had to repeat during summer course. I was at Curtin between 95 through 98, and I was at Curtin 96 through 98, so I was class of 98, and I was actually at Curtin at CUACI College, for my year 12 back in 95. So if any of you from Singapore or Malaysia or Indonesia spent about the same period, same era that I was in Curtin or at CUACI College, I'm saying hello to all of you. But anyway, even if we didn't ever see each other back then, living in Perth, we did have one thing in common. We are mostly graduates. I'm going to explain to you managing personal expenses and the new behavior in the new normal. This is basically the extension of what Ryan has explained in the macro sense. I'm going to be talking mostly in the micro sense. So next slide would be a little introduction about myself. I think, yeah, I founded a company back in 2003. I'm a financial trainer. My company has been hit quite hard by the pandemic. We usually travel about 3 cities, 4 cities, 5 cities per week. When I'm in Jakarta, I would be traveling to 5 companies in one day. The photo explained to you, a public speaker, and the last 4 months I'm quarantined at home. So this is my work now. I stay in this room all day long talking to a screen. This feels a bit like a Star Trek starship, actually. Not only I am in finance, if any of you in Indonesia are following me, I am in stand-up comedy as well. I've done some pretty big shows here in Jakarta. And that world, that wild world that is completely the opposite of my finance world, took me into a ride into acting. So I've been in movies like Gulari ke Pantai, directed by the genius Riri Riza, and I was also in Dua Garis Biru. If any of you in Singapore or Malaysia caught this movie, this is a big hit movie. I was the OBGYN. If you do have finance questions, you want to DM me on Instagram, please do so, but do not ask me about contraceptive methods. That's what people have been asking about it after I played the OBGYN in the movie. Joking aside, so this is now the real deal. I'm going to be talking to you about finance because that's what I had been studying in Perth. My 4 years at Perth was all about finance. So the next slide is basically the disclaimer that we usually do. As a financial trainer, what I do would be explaining to you on concepts and skills that you might be gaining from the presentation that I'm making today. However, I do not recommend products, so I will not be responsible with the risk involved in any of your financial actions. Next will be the new normal. Well, is it normal? It's been really hard for Indonesians, especially. I'm sure Malaysians, Singapore understand, the big country with 267 million people. Everybody here are so warm and we love to hang out. We don't like to stay at home. We love to just group in numbers, in sheer numbers, by the way. And therefore, the spread of the virus has also come in sheer number. I was supposed to travel to the US for the prestigious Eisenhower Fellowship, and it's been postponed from May 2020 to September 2020. Recently, they have postponed it further to 2021. At this point, I'm actually not sure whether I will ever travel in the next year or two. So what is new normal? Next, please. The next slide, we will see the 4 major difference of consumer behavior. What Ryan has stated, this is actually not my slide. I'm actually copying this from a company called Invention Knowledge by Pak Yuswo Hadi. So if you want to Google him up, his name is Yuswo Hadi. He did a lot of market research and marketing lectures, and I'm always fascinated by what his team can provide as insight to all of us. On finance side, for me, this is really important because consumer behavior is what is driving the company. My company base our income, our revenue from about 70% of our revenue is based on corporate trainings, which are basically offline. We have been doing a lot of online trainings the last 2 years. Thank God we do that. So now we're ready. This morning, I just had our first big online gatherings. It's called Financial Dialogue. I'm actually wearing the t-shirt right now. There's the mug right now, Financial Dialogue. And we had 241 participants, which is probably the biggest we've done so far. Usually it hits 176 maximum, but today we had 241. Next month, we're aiming for 500. But what's happening is before pandemic, the online side of the classes that we do is usually on the sideline. So it's not our main business. So by April 2020, we lost all of our contracts, all of them. And we went into crisis mode. I said to my team, we had a town hall meeting, and I said to my team, listen, it's the beginning of a pandemic. It might go all the way to June. Yeah, I was so naive. I thought it's going to be over by July. And today it's July and it's still not over. So I'm now telling my team that we need to be ready until December. But in my heart, I know until 2021, it will still be going on. Which means this slide becomes more important whether you are in Indonesia, Malaysia, or Singapore, or elsewhere around the world. We need to have a look at how people live, because the way people live is the way we can determine where our business and our personal finance can go. The 4 changes are staying at home, change in basics needs as priorities, going digital, and empathic society. As you can see, staying at home means you need to prepare. Well, first of all, we need to prepare a lot of things about what's going on with the way you work. This is my bedroom. Before the pandemic, I didn't have a setup to work. Now, if you can see right there, we have a sofa at the back, watch a movie or play a game. And this is my workstation. And this is actually the first big purchase we did, a proper sitting arrangement, because I didn't have a workstation at home before. I always finish everything at the office and I don't bring work to my house. But because of stay at home, we start doing that. Some of my friends, their business have been drastically changed because we do a lot of big parties in Indonesia. Weddings in Indonesia will be for about 3,000 people. My friends who are in catering business have been suffering a lot because no more do they have customers buying 3,000 plates of food. They have to cater for the retail, which probably in one day they will get 600 plates, which is good if you're a retailer. But for a caterer that usually serve 3,000 plates per session, that's a lot of drop. And so even for those caterers, they have to change into something like selling frozen food, because when you're at home, more people will be cooking instead of buying restaurants, ordering from restaurants. And that leads us to the second bit. The second bit is basically how you drop a lot of your lifestyle changes. You focus more on basic priorities, but especially for safety and health. So a lot of people are producing masks. A lot of people are buying vitamins. No, we don't hoard on toiletries. Yeah, not in Indonesia. We still use gayung or the jet spray. So I don't understand what's going on in the Western world when they're hoarding toilet paper. But the third one is where it is, like Ryan has been explaining, going digital is not just the only one, but it's one of the main shift that we need to consider. I joined 2 local studio gyms, maybe more, but the 2 main ones that I joined, one does a lot of CrossFit and boxing. The other one does a lot of yoga, bar, Pilates, and stuff like that. Both have switched into digital training. So I do all my Pilates, yoga, boxing, CrossFit, training through online. My coach, we have a lot of demands for online learning, and that's where we're going. The last one is empathic society. I don't know with Malaysia and Singapore, but I can imagine it will not be too far from what's happening because of the main Asian culture. In Indonesia, helping each other out, the word is gotong royong, is embedded in the society. So a lot of people are very eager to help each other. I remember my fellow Eisenhower fellows, Mbak Alisa Wahid, Gus Dur's oldest daughter. She arranged some fundraising to help people who are very much impacted, lost their job completely because they are working in the non-formal sector, in the informal sector. People like tukang beca, pedagang pinggir jalan, people who don't have businesses, don't have employment. These are the people who suffered the most. And with Mbak Alisa Wahid, I think we gain about 6 to 7 billion rupiah within 2 or 3 weeks. That was really fast, and that was part of empathic society. My next door neighbor actually, she's a party planner, she's a party decorator, and her business just basically stopped, just pause. No more party for her business. So instead of doing nothing, she started to make face shields, and the protective gear for medical workers, and she asked people to donate. And when people are so eager to donate, her business actually rose again, and now she's producing more than 5,000 face shields distributed throughout the country. And that's what's going on with consumer behavior, the main mega shift that we need to look at when we're working, navigating our business. Okay, let's go. Next will be just some explanation of the online training that we're doing. This is what I did. We are on YouTube. If you want to go into QM Financial, it's in Bahasa Indonesia, by the way. So maybe with Malaysian audience, that would be suitable. But we also go into Zoom seminars and Udemy. This is brand new. With Udemy is digitally download. You can manage your own time. But with the Zoom classes, we do it live, and we do it 4 times a week. So that's a lot of work. There's a class every night. So my team is shifting into completely digital. In April, I actually had to close down my office, like finish. We closed the physical office, but not the company itself. So now my team works completely online. So we pull all our classes online, and we work behind the scene online. And I'm just going to show you that because that's the background story of going digital. Next is what we're going to do. If you can go to the next slide. Yeah. This is just an example. Within 4 months, we get 8,000 participants from 222 cities and 20 countries. That's how big the shift is. Imagine, I usually travel around the country, sometimes overseas. I go to Hong Kong, Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea for my financial training as well, to meet with our migrant workers. But around the country, I travel all the time. I've been to the western part where Aceh and the eastern part where Papua is. But because I'm now at home for the last 4 months, we manage everything online, and this is what we've been doing. 222 cities from 20 countries. That's how vast it is. The geographic barrier is now off. If you want to reach out, you can reach out digitally, and that's actually fabulous. Next. Okay, so from this to this, that's basically what I wanted to show you. Usually I meet people for real. I get to see your face. I get to hold your hands. I get to talk to you directly. Nowadays, I'm just talking to a screen day in, day out. Next. And because our life changed, then we need to do different way in managing our money, because the way we live is completely different now. And as Pak Ryan has been explaining, we will be in for a long haul. It's not going to be over in June. No, it's already July. It's not going to be over in December. No, no, no. It might go further down the road. It might go all the way to 2021, maybe even further. When the vaccine is still not there yet, there's nothing much we can do. We just have to deal with staying at home more and more. Next, let's find out. This is a checklist on managing money during the pandemic, and I think this is quite universal. We can use it for Indonesian terms, Australian terms, Singapore, and also for Malaysia. Next. Okay, this is what we need to do first. We need to check with our income first. If you can, I need you go to your browser and go to slido.com and type the code 71060. There's a polling there. And I would like to know whether your income is still fixed. That means your salary is not changing. Or maybe any of you have experienced reduce in your income, or the worst has happened to you. You are basically now with no income. If you would allow yourself to have a little bit of time to do this polling and go to slido.com, type 71060. Let's find out what's going on. Don't worry about it. We're not going to read all your names and tell the rest of the world how your income is state. It's just a simple polling, just so you know what's going on. Here we go. 29. Anyone else want to do the polling so we get to understand what's going on? Yes. So definitely there are some of us who are experiencing no income, whether you are in transition or due to the pandemic. 20% have experienced reduced income. I have personally experienced reduced income. The first person who do not receive salary in my company because of the pandemic is myself. So yeah, being an owner sometimes sucks like that. Fixed income of 75%. 32 people. Anyone else want to join in the polling? Thank you. Okay, I think that's about it. So 73% have experienced fixed income, no change at all. Reduced income, 21%, and 6% of 34 people who have set the poll experience no income, only 6%. Thank you so much. Let's go back to the slides. This is the second one. The second one is I need you guys to check your expenses. So after we know what's going on with our income status, we need to check with our expenses. The left side is a normal situation, and the right side is basically abnormal. This whole pandemic is really abnormal. It's taking the toll seriously. There are 5 big categories that I would consider as the categories of our expenses. They are debt installment, routine expenses, your savings and investment, social and charitable expenses, and the last but not least is your lifestyle. So what happens is I usually do some kind of budgeting based on these 5 big categories on January. Every year I do that. And so I have my 2020 budgeting for the rest of the year. And then come March, when March came along, I was like, this is not happening. I have 3 kids. 2 of them are teenagers, my husband, and then my mother-in-law and my housekeeper. We all live under the same roof, the 7 of us. And when the pandemic came, we are most of the time out of the house. Suddenly everybody is at home all the time, which means all the routine expense had to jump up. Electricity bill, water bill, you name it, grocery bill, everything had jumped up. But of course, our lifestyle actually slumped down a little bit. So in the beginning of the pandemic in March, I recalculate this amount, and then May came in. When May came in, it was the Ramadan fasting and Idul Fitri. So I had to rework my budgeting again. So for the first 6 months of 2020, I had to rewrite my budget 3 times in January, in the beginning of the pandemic in March, and during Ramadan in May. So now comes in July, I have to rework it again because the budgeting today is not going to be the same as the budgeting as when I was experiencing Ramadan fasting. And so that means in a crisis situation like this, the only way you can survive is 3 steps that you have to do. Adapting, adapting, adapting. You need to rework on your budgeting all the time. But if we have to prioritize, there are 2 categories that you have to prioritize. The first one is your debt installment, and the second one is your routine operational expenses. Number 3 is checking your emergency fund. Emergency fund is basically the money you can use when you have no income. How much money you have will determine how long you can live without an income. So the recommendation, but this is theoretical, and the number is really, really high. Don't worry so much about it. If you're single, you need 4 times your monthly expenses. If you're married, you need 6 times. If you're married with a child, you need 9 times. And if you're married with 2 children, if you run a small business, or if you are pensioner, you need to run it 12 times, which means it's a huge amount to set aside. But during this pandemic, it has to be done before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, for me, it's never too late. Just do it anyway. Even if you don't have your emergency fund ready right now, keep going. For my company, actually, back in March, I had to cancel the rental of the ruko that we're renting for our office. We've been there for 6 years. The landlord is really nice. We love the area. The area is in Grand Wijaya Center, which is right next to the Block A MRT station. So I love that area. When I have to go to the Sudirman Central Business District, I go on the MRT. I was so happy with that office, but we had to cancel it. So I save a lot of money from there. Instead of reducing the salary of my staff, that's what we did. So not just I have to have my own emergency fund personally as a family, but also for the company. My mentor at that time asked me if I had 3 months emergency fund for my business in March, which means April, May, June. And he said to me, Liguina, if you don't have 3 months emergency fund for your business, you might consider closing the business. That's what he said. So we made sure we had emergency fund up to June. Now it's already July. So now we are aiming to have our emergency fund all the way up to December. Now, while we have all the cash ready to prepare for a longer period of pandemic, I'm already aiming to have enough cash to survive the first quarter of 2021. It's actually that sick. Yes. Number 4, check your protection. If you are working for a company, chances are you already have your, in Indonesian term, is the universal healthcare, BPJS Kesehatan. If you are working in a proper company, providing BPJS Kesehatan or universal healthcare is actually the obligation of your employer. However, not all small business can arrange that. And if you are not working for a company or you are running your own small business, please do make sure you have your own BPJS Kesehatan. There are at least 3 levels of health security that we need to create for ourselves. The first one is the BPJS Kesehatan, the National Health Universal Healthcare. The second one is a private health insurance. And the third one is our own cash reserve. I actually have the first 2, which is BPJS Kesehatan provided by my company and the private insurance for health for my company. I treat the 2 as 2 different kinds that I did both of them because we're not talking about COVID, okay? COVID is dangerously deadly. But as an Indonesian, you would know that typhoid and dengue fever are still 2 major diseases that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So staying at home, you are probably free from COVID, but maybe free from typhoid. Still, the dengue fever is still lurking around, ready to get you. So for me, having both my BPJS Kesehatan and my private insurance is very important. The second one is life insurance. Never underestimate the power of understanding that your family is taken care of if you're gone. I'm working, my husband is working as well, so both of us are working. But if one of us is not there, the other person would suffer because I cannot cover his income and he cannot cover my income. So because both of us are working, both of us have life insurance because we both contribute to the financial side of the family. So don't underestimate both. With health, I think most companies provide it, but with life insurance, you have to do it yourself. Most companies don't provide life insurance. Most companies only provide for asuransi kecelakaan, okay? Accidental insurance. Next, number 5, I think. Check your investment. I know it's really hard for a lot of people when things don't look really bright and the stock market seem to be going sideways or even limping downwards. You feel like you don't want to invest. Well, let me tell you, there are different kinds of ways to invest. The first one is you need to ensure you keep your emergency fund intact. With emergency fund, you actually need to put your money in term deposit, in savings. If you want to go into mutual fund, only go into the money market mutual fund. But the fourth one is actually to go into gold and just keep the gold, not because it's going to increase or going down, but because gold is gold in any kind of situation. So the first one is if you want to invest for your emergency fund. The second bit is when you want to invest for the long haul. So I believe there are two kinds of investment. In our financial classes, we always talk about having accumulative investment and generative investment. These are two different kinds of things. Like Pak Ryan has been explaining, that if you need to consider future investment, you need to understand that this pandemic will be over. It happened 100 years ago. It was over. It's happening now. We don't know when it's going to be over, but it will be over. We will get through this. And so you need to still consider having longer time for your investment. So accumulative investment is when you invest with small amount into the stock market through mutual funds or stock directly, and you just continue to buy whether it goes up or go down, and use the cost averaging strategy. But you need to make sure that your goal is longer than 10 years. So if the stock market goes down in the next 5 months, 6 months, you know you're in good hands because you don't put all your money in there. You just put small amounts every month, and you know you're not going to use it in the next few years. You're just going to use it in the next 10 years. Thank me later. The third one, which is very important, is the investment that I call generative investment. Now, imagine when you're over 60 and you're not working anymore, or maybe I would still be working, but I will not be depending on my day-to-day work to feed myself. I would like to have my investment, which is generating money for myself without me working in it. And there are 3 types of assets that can help you with that, which is business, property, and paper. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you. I think we're open for question and answer. I'm returning it back to my fellow Nico and Nabila.
All right. Thank you for the presentation, Ibu Ina.
My pleasure.
That was very good. So there are 3 keywords in this challenging era: adapting, and adapting.
We have no choice.
Yeah, we need to rework on our budgeting, and we will get through this, right, Ibu Ina?
Yes, definitely.
All right, guys. Now it's time for Q&A session, and we will be running the session for about 15 to 20 minutes. So shall we have a look at the questions from Slido, Nico?
Sure. So let me see how many questions do we have to our intelligent speakers today.
Let's have a look. First question is, how the impact of the Indonesian economy, even neighboring country or large country like the USA, has experienced an economic decline due to a pandemic? Is this question for Pak Rian or Ibu Ina?
I think Pak Rian can answer that one.
Okay.
I'll leave all the macro questions to you, Rian.
Sure. I'm ready to take the floor. Okay, let me address this question. I think what the person is asking is that how will the economy, the whole economy, impact Indonesian economy if other countries are being derailed? Are we going to be on the same happening? No, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take your attention to see the current pandemic and the current economic situation as if this is like a huge Titanic boat and it's sinking. Yeah, and it's sinking. Every country will have their own lifeboat, trying to save their own people on their lifeboat. Now, everybody will scatter here and there, and the question really is boiling down to the lifeboat itself. Is it able to sustain everybody on board? We take this lifeboat, imagine this lifeboat as a stimulus package. Yeah. So again, it is the performance of each country's governments that is playing a huge part during this time, of course. Now let's take a scale down and let's take a look at Indonesian trading partners. 5 major countries being Indonesian trading partners would be China, Singapore, Japan, Malaysia, and Thailand. Yeah. So of course, when you talk about US, if the US has gone down, will Indonesia be derailed as well? Will we be dragged along? To a certain extent, yes, but not to a major extent. Now, how is that in Indonesia? Well, a lot of business players out there, if you are not aware, the government is in talks with China, Japan, and Korea to actually move some of their manufacturing companies into Indonesia. Now, you might have seen some of the 7 manufacturing companies. Let me just take a look if I have that on my slide. Yeah, because I have actually prepared that as well. Okay, yeah, light at the end of the tunnel, point number 11. We will be seeing incoming investment from 7 major manufacturing companies, largely from China, Japan, and Korea, and these are confirmed. 17 others are in the pipeline, and this will help to boost Indonesian economy. Now, having said that, why are we talking about China, Japan, and Korea when your question is about US? Now, it's important to understand that one of the reasons at number 11, if you take a look at point number 2, 0% import tariff for products from Indonesia into US as compared to the current 25% import tariff for products from China into US. You know that China and US are, tucked between this trade war. So nobody wants to give way to the other. So what happened is that whatever exported product being sent out from China into US will have a hefty 25% import tariff. So in order for them to tackle this problem, of course, US is trying to make them more, how would I call it, not so competitive in terms of costing when it goes or reaches the United States, so that their products becomes much more expensive, and people within the United States will then tend to choose products from other countries or domestic goods. Now, having said this, of course, China tries to tackle this problem by setting their manufacturing plant in Indonesia so that they can enjoy the 0% import tariff into US as well. So if you ask me, will this whole thing, when the economy of the United States goes down, will we be derailed? Yes, in terms of this export that we are doing for China into US, yes, but that's as far as it is, because our major trading countries does not include the United States. Yeah, I hope this will answer your question. So to a certain extent, yes, we will be affected, but not to a large extent. So we are quite safe over there. And I hope this answers your question. And the next question, perhaps, many businesses, almost every field, are closing down. Could you give any insights on how to survive this crisis when your business is sinking? Again, let me just have a quick share of the PPT slide and take your attention to this slide. If we boil down to question on survivability of the business, we are talking about a lot of methods combined into one. Yeah, some of the methods that has been adopted at this point in time as we speak, that will be moving the business from offline to online base, and the reason is pretty simple. Indonesia has already built a very good infrastructure and is still building it. Yeah, if you have seen, the whole island of Java is much more connected today than it was before. All the expressway has been linked up here and there. And what does this mean? This means that online businesses are thriving, really. Now, how do they thrive from this logistical benefit? Due to the betterment or improvement in infrastructure, we are seeing lower costs and quicker delivery time. So if your business is taken online, this is the time to actually look into that and to add benefit and add value to your customers from better infrastructure. Now, another concern in order for your business to be able to survive during this period is to manage good cash flow. Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough of this, that managing good cash flow and even managing a tighter cash flow today than it was before is more important. Yeah, because you need to ensure that your cash flow can sustain you for at least the next 12 months we are talking about. If it used to sustain you by 6 months, then now you have to ensure that you are sustainable by the next 12 months. Now, how do you do that? A lot of companies do a lot of cost cutting by layoffs, by cutting down salary, and so on and so forth. Of course, if your cash flow maintains you for 6 months, now you'll have to cut 50% of your employee salary in order for you to be able to take a breather for 12 months. you have to ensure 12 months survivability based on your cash flow at this point in time instead of hanging around for profits. We are not talking about profits at this point in time, and a lot of businesses are not going to close their books looking green, looking good, looking profitable by the end of 2020. Most of them, if not all of them, are going to talk about zero profit, sustainable performance, or if not worse, loss. Yeah, so that is very important, managing cash flow. At this point in time, you should also be revisiting your company plans and strategies. If you were intending to expand previously, you may want to hold that thought for now. And instead of expanding, you may want to look into normalizing your management. First of all. Secondly, align your strategies with your financial capability. Don't over push yourself to the limit. Yeah. Now is not the time to expand, but rather the time to survive and revolve. And last but not least, of course, you might have known that a lot of pay cut happens out there, a lot of cost down out there. Again, 12 months cash flow is very, very important. So again, you have to look into 12 months sustainability of your cash flow. If you are able to do that, then your company is able to sustain during this period. However, at this point in time, you are not just talking about sustainability. Sustainability is just one issue of your company, but how do you revolve from there on? That will be something for your management to also consider so that your business doesn't just survive, but also can be taken to the next level when the time, when the right time comes. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that answered your question. There's this one question from, I don't know who, it's anonymous. It says that based on your explanation, Indonesia, is it better than US and EU? Now, it's very interesting to analyze and to position. Well, when I say that Indonesia is performing better than US and EU, it's very, very catchy, and it's very interesting to find out that how exactly are we better than them? Yeah. Now, in terms of real GDP growth percentage rate, yes, we are. Yes, we are. Let me share my, let me see. Yeah, my slides are back. And let me share with you the slide that has been, this information, yeah, that has been provided by the IMF, which I've gone through earlier on. If you look at this, yes, Indonesia is currently doing better in terms of the other counterparts, such as EU and the United States. EU have their own issues prior to the pandemic on Brexit to deal with, yeah, first of all. Secondly, the United States are finding it hard to catch up with real GDP growth rates because real GDP are talking about what do you actually domestically produce or manufacture. Now, if within the country you manufacture a lot of basic necessities, yes, during this time of turmoil, you're able to sustain your or lifeboat better. Yeah, you're able to survive your own people, your own GDP, and even the exports better. Now, however, the United States, as we have seen, they manufacture a lot of high-end products. Yeah, the cars, the luxury goods, and so on and so forth, which is not being sought after during this time. Now, that derailed their manufacturing sector, and how the government reacted to COVID-19 also plays a very important part and a major part of it, in fact, on maintaining, or I would rather say on keeping the lifeboat sustainable or afloat. Yeah. Now in Indonesia, we have Ibu Sri Mulyani as our finance minister, and she has done a wonderful job to look into the real GDP growth of Indonesia based on internal or domestic manufacturing. And this is the real reason why we don't actually see a total 100% halting or stopping of the Indonesian manufacturing. During the pandemic time, we see manufacturing companies, they just perhaps they stagger the working time, but no one really closed down their doors and put an end to their manufacturing production line. Yeah. Unlike in the United States, unlike in the EU, where they totally put a stop to that, and the whole wheel stopped spinning. So I hope I answer your question with regards to is Indonesia better than US and EU in terms of the real growth of GDP. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bila and Nico. Back to you. I hope I didn't run off from the time.
Thank you, Pa Rian, for
Thank
question
you.
from our participant. So we have a look on our Slido. So to Mrs. Hananto. So all right. So there's a question for you. During the pandemic, in your opinion, on what financial instrument we should invest or saving?
I see. As I explained before, I believe that all products must serve the purpose of our financial goals. So before asking which plane to take, if you're talking about going on a plane, you don't just pick on the plane to board. You need to know which destination that plane is going. And that's the analogy I use to decide on what investment to do. So for example, if the goal is for emergency fund, you need to invest in the lowest risk and highly liquid products. But if you only put your money in saving in time deposit, then it will not grow. And therefore, there are 4 products we use for emergency fund: saving, time deposit, money market mutual fund, and gold. And this is actually universal knowledge that can be applied in any countries. But if you look at your financial goals, if they are more than 5 years, more than 10 years to achieve it, then you can consider going into the capital market. Most people don't realize, but investing in mutual fund is actually very practical. You just need to put your money into a mutual fund and then just continue doing so for the next few years. And I've been doing this for about 20 years now. My eldest son is going to university. Everything is secured. We know where the money is coming from because we have been saving and investing in the last 20 years. But what's important is during the pandemic, you need to ensure you have your emergency fund first. That is more than just saying, I want to invest my money. You don't want to invest your money. You want to survive the pandemic. And to be able to survive the pandemic, you need to know you can feed yourself for the next 12 months. That's what Ryan is saying. And that goes the same for your business and for your personal finance. I don't have 12 months emergency fund. I think our emergency fund is only about 3 months, which means I need to continue to add up to it to make sure, because this is what's happening. We don't know how my business is going to survive in the next 6 months or 12 months. I can now tell my staff that we have cash to employ everybody until December. So my company knows that if we don't have any income at all for the next 6 months, we have the cash to support everybody into December. But that's not enough because maybe 2021, it's still the pandemic. And therefore, I need to secure the first quarter. So even though my personal finance, I don't have for 12 months, but I know my company will sustain and support me for the next 6 months. And that's the balance that we're trying to do. I still go into stock market. My husband and I invest regularly into equity mutual fund for our long-term pension fund, education fund for my youngest child who's still in elementary school. But for our son who is already in university and my second daughter who is now in high school, all their education fund are now in time deposit, ready to be paid to the schools, not in stock market. My husband is actually in VC, in venture capital. And he still goes out digitally to meet people, to do to check on businesses, to talk to investors, which means investing in business is still a big thing. Like Ryan was saying, investors don't plan for tomorrow. Investors plan for the future. And tomorrow is not the future. Tomorrow is just another day. But the future, the next 3 years, the next 5 years, is what the investors are looking on. And therefore, just because it's a pandemic, don't stop investing. But please make sure you have your emergency fund to feed yourself for the next 12 months. Thank you, Nico.
All right. Thank you, Bu Vina, for your answer. I hope that your answer could brighten the question from our participants. So we have a look again on our Slido screen. I think there is one more question addressed to Bu Vina.
Okay, ready.
Okay, for Ibu Diguina, what is the cheapest and fastest investment? Please don't think about the high return?
Cheap and fast investment. I don't know. I don't travel and looking for a cheap and fast vehicle. I look for the goal first. So I can't answer your question because I always base my money on the goals first. If the goal is long term, we go into equity. If the goal is short term, we go into banking products like time and deposit. That would be my answer.
Right, that's short. And short and precise. Okay. Shall we go for our next question or hello? Actually we still have a few more questions left on Slido, but we're running out of time. So guys, can we please send questions to speakers' emails because we need to move to the next session of the webinar, please. Right, Nico?
Sure, Bila.
We have something interesting, of course. Always, because we are CUACI. We have spoiler, guys, for CUACI learning session next month. So we'll have a special event. It's called CUACI Summit 2020, as it is the CUACI 3rd anniversary. So this year, our theme is towards recovery, innovation, and reorientation as strategies for the new normal era. So there will be a learning session or professional development session with 2 guest speakers. So one from Curtin University in Perth and one from our country, Indonesia. And there also be more learning sessions in upcoming months, more and more coming. So we hope to see you again in the next learning sessions. Stay with us.
So to our participant, please fill this form for the list of attendance and survey, which Bila, maybe you can explain it to our participant.
Right, so each of you will be sent a link of attendance. So if you guys want to get the certificate or e-certificate, they'll be sent straight to your inbox. So you guys need to fill this in, right? And also there's a webinar video on YouTube, which you can watch over and over again. And we also have CUACI merchandises.
Exactly.
We have different kinds of merchandises from CUACI. We have fashionable face masks and also perfumes. The name is Nilam from Atsiri Research Center, as well as the garments with CUACI batik on it, and so many more. Please click on the previous links so you can check more CUACI products on the website. Thank you. And also, Nico, what are you going to say to those who are interested in studying Curtin?
So if you are keen to join Curtin University or continue your study in Curtin University, you can contact Patricia Kelly at patricia.kelly@curtin.edu.au. And also, we are really thank you to our speakers and also to our participant. Your certificate will be ready in your inbox within 1 to 2 weeks. Don't forget to subscribe YouTube channel and Curtin University Alumni Chapter Indonesia. Also follow our Facebook, Curtin Alumni Indonesia, and Instagram at curtinalumni.indonesia to get the latest information about our learning session. See you all next month on our next Curtin Learning Series topic number 4. Have a great weekend, stay safe, and thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
Have a
Thank you,
great-
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hope to
Thank
see you
you
again.
very much.
Stay
Have a great
safe.
weekend.
Very
Bye.
interesting
Bye.
presentation.
Bila.
Thank you, Pak Heri.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mas.
Bye-bye.
Nico.
See you
Thank you,
next
Bila.
time.
Rekan-rekan.
See you around, Rian. Thank you so
Yang
much.
sudah
Thank
datang.
you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for coming.